Welcome everybody to the IBJ Black Robes podcast. Yay, we are back. It's been a while, but we're back in the studio and we're here with some very special people as always. I got my co-host Chiama with me. You know what I'm saying? She's gonna give herself a soft introduction in a minute, and then we also have our special guest, Laurie Louise Sale, and we're very excited to get into like what she has going on, new pilot programs, and just also our upcoming Black to Vote event as well. But before we get into anything else, we're going to get into the IBJ mission. The IBJ mission and the purpose of the Institute for Black Justice is to relentlessly pursue equity and justice for all. The IBJ mission is threefold: to be an advocate for fairness and equity, to be an accelerator of the justice system's transformation, and to be an accomplice to credible social justice influencers in the communities they serve. Thank you so much, Laurie, for coming today and speaking with us. We're so excited to have you. I'm gonna introduce you just a little bit. If you want to know more about Laurie Louise Sale, Laurie is the court program analyst in the Office of the Judicial and Legislative Relations, and she is the project manager of Pierce County Jurors Pay Pilot Program. I would love to invite Laurie to talk more about herself and introduce herself to everybody listening tonight.
All right. Thank you so much, Isaiah, for that great introduction. As Isaiah said, yes, my name is Laurie Louise Sale, and I have the good fortune of working for the Administrative Office of the Courts. And in this role of project manager, I have the very, very good fortune and privilege to manage the Juror Pay Pilot Program for Pierce County. I'm not sure how much you all know about this pilot project, so if I may, I would like to just give a little bit of a background, if that's okay. Well, let's see, where can I start? All right, so let's talk about the funds. So in 2024, Washington State, the legislature allocated funds for a juror compensation pilot in Pierce County following the adoption of the state budget, which was Senate Bill 5187. Lots of dry talk, but really relevant to get where we are today. The Pierce County Juror Pay Pilot will now pay jurors, and this is the exciting part of all of this, it will now pay jurors $100 a day as opposed to the current $10 a day. That's the current statutory rate. If you are a juror in Pierce County and you get your summons card and you say, okay, I'm going to call in and sign up for my jury duty, you are paid $10 a day. But on October 14th, that will change because of this great pilot to $100 a day. Now, the jury demographic survey back in 2023 gave us a very good overview of the demographics of kind of like this intersectional dynamic of race, gender, and then income were identified as kind of coinciding factors for the lack of, and this is another important part, of the representative of diversity on juries. Because our juries just aren't as diverse as they should be. And the $100 figure was decided upon by the legislature as it's close to kind of commensurate or equal to the day's minimum wage here in our state. And that also will lessen the cost that jurors have to shoulder for missing work in order to participate in jury duty. And we all know that that's really the rub. How do you go serve a jury duty when you are trying to pay for your home, your apartment, your condo, your child? You have one job, you're a single mother, you're a single father, whatever it is that you're trying to deal with. Not getting paid your daily wage is not going to cut the mustard if you're only getting $10 a day for jury duty. So that's what this pilot is all about. It's about bringing up the jurors and trying to cast a wider net, increase the juror pool with a focus on increasing the diversity in our juries, which of course leads to more access to justice. So the jury pay pilot will commence, as I said, on Monday, October 14th, coming up, and it will run through June 30th of next year. And then this will be for all eligible jurors who serve in Pierce County Superior District Court or Tacoma Municipal Court. And it is just those select three courts. So we're really excited about it. We're seeing I should mention we have a wonderful working group with Pierce County Superior Court, and I have the privilege of again managing this working group and making sure that all the pieces are in place and we're doing everything we need to do to get this pilot up and running. But obviously, we're collaborating with Pierce County Superior Court, and we couldn't do it without the help of the wonderful court administrator there, and the jury manager as well, who've already been reporting accelerated and increased numbers of expected jurors reporting for jury duty beginning on the 14th.
Thank you so much for the information about that. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I wasn't aware that $10 was only what people were getting
Yes,
paid for. Um,
yes.
it's so cool to see like going from 10 to 100. I guess before I even ask a question, I would love for my co-host Chiama to introduce herself and who she is, and then I open the floor for her to ask any direct questions to you to what you just said.
Yay! Oh, so yes, my name is Chiama. I go by Chi. I'm actually a professional matchmaker and dating specialist, and I own a business based on helping people find love.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's
I don't.
wonderful.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you so much. So I, like Isaiah just mentioned, I wasn't aware that it was only $10. So I'm so very glad that this is something that's being pushed into society for people to take note. And I do think it's a really good incentive for people to not only help bring the justice back to where it needs to be, the justice system, but also to bring peace of mind to others. And I love the fact that diversity is being considered because we all know that's a big factor, especially in Washington state. So, Lori, I guess my question for you is what made you think of this? Yes, it was only $10 an hour, but were you a juror and decided, you know what, there has to be a change? Like, what was that moment for you?
Mhm. Well, I personally didn't think of this. This is something that we can go right back to our amazing Washington Supreme Court for this. This is jury diversity and jury diversity initiatives has long been something that they've been attempting to do through different their Minority and Justice Commission, and that's pretty much where this derived from. And then in the course of trying to get this funded, we go through the legislature who allocates the funds and through again through Senate Bill 5187. So I personally didn't think of it. I am just the wonderful beneficiary of the legislation and getting appointed to do the managing of the project itself. So I would love to take credit, but that's just not who I am. We give credit where credit is due. And again, I'm thrilled to be a part of it. And as you said, Isaiah, and it's really an eye opener to know that if you go to serve the court, if you go to do jury duty and you want to actually do that, participate in our justice system, and to find out that $10 is all you're getting per day. And again, juries can be 3 days long. They can be impaneled. Impaneled is just when they actually have the jury set and ready to go. So they can be impaneled for 3 days, a week, sometimes 2 weeks. It's unpredictable depending on the trial itself. So the difference between, let's just say hypothetically, let's say Isaiah, you go for a week to do jury duty. You're impaneled, you're sworn in as a juror, you take the oath, all of that stuff. Yep, you're ready to go. You know it. And you're there for a week. Let's say it turns out to be, 5 days. A business week, we'll say that. And you're this is the difference between $50 and 500. So when you think about it in terms like that, that's huge. It's a big deal. Of course, we'd all love to see it be more than that, but this is the start of what we hope will be a very successful pilot in Pierce County, which will lead to hopefully other pilots in other counties, King, Thurston, uh, you know, pick a county around the state, and what will hopefully ultimately result in, fingers crossed, a statewide pilot where we do it across the state. So this is important work we're doing right now to test the waters and see how this goes. And all indications are that it looks like it's going to go well.
Thank you so much for putting that in perspective. I feel like when you think about it in terms of the amount of days you would do it, say if it's 5 days, the $50 compared to 500, you mentioned 2 weeks. I'm thinking 140 compared to $1,400, which is
Well,
completely
right.
different. You know what I'm saying? And the more days we do it, the more of an impact it has. And really thinking about it like 10 compared to 100, you're 10xing that amount of money that used to be the value of your civic engagement. But now you can see that there's a lot more value put into that. Um, I really
Exactly.
yeah.
We
Um,
hope that we hope that it really just enables folks to just say yes to that summons and want to participate and not look for a reason not to. And as I said earlier, it's really important that our juries really increase in diversity. The more diverse the jury pool, you really have better. The outcomes tend to be a little bit better, more fair, and people really understand, what's happening. So this is all a wonderful thing to increase um, our not only just the juror pool itself, of course, but the diversity within the jury pool.
I would love for you to speak on that some more because I feel like that's something that even I, as I'm speaking to you, like you said that, I'm like, oh my God, that's so
Mm,
relevant. Because when we're thinking about cases like, many Ellis's trial, or when we're thinking about, anything that's going on within trials, and people need to be appointed, if they're only getting paid $10 a day, especially that trial lasted so long, but like literally weeks and months. Oh my
mhm,
God. Then if you're a working
mhm,
class citizen, which tend to be, if we look at statistics, tend to be people of color, low income
mhm,
situations, areas, then it's not fully representative of the people in the court. And then the court decision doesn't necessarily look the way it should, or it's not actually representative of like the state, the area, the county. There's so many different levels to that, you know what I'm saying? So
mhm.
I'd love to
Yeah.
speak like the equity aspect of like not only paying people to be within the court, but how it can affect like how it has a domino effect on other court processes.
Well, right, and that's exactly the point is that for sure, because there have been studies done, and don't quote me and don't ask me to think of them, but I know in the course of all this work, I've seen those studies that point to a real um, a real improvement in juror outcomes when the diversity is there on the jury pool itself. And we learned that from the statewide it was a statewide demographic survey done by Seattle University that really kind of honed in and pointed the way and showed that kind of intersectionality I spoke of earlier around race and gender, and that whole kind of intersectionality and how important that is when you're looking to impanel juries. And depending, again, a lot of times, well, most of the time, I think all the time, you're not sure until you go sign in for jury duty. You're not sure what it is. You have no idea what you are signing up for. You don't know the case. You don't know who's on trial. You just know you've got your jury summons card and you are going to sign in. You're going to call, or you're going to walk in, or you're going to go online and report in. And then you say the day comes, you come, you go, you stand there, you get signed in by the jury manager, and then you still don't really know what's going on until you get seated and you hear from the folks in the court on what's happening. So again, the fact that we could possibly increase the juror pool in and of itself, again, just generally increase a juror pool because that's important too, but then to also have a diversity of jurors, enough just can't be said about how beneficial that truly is for the jurors, for the litigant parties. It's just important. And I know you all know the phrase um, jury of your peers. We've heard that since we were young in civil government and high school, wherever you take your government civics class, we all hear you are entitled to a jury of your peers. Well, a jury of your peers sometimes doesn't look what you think it should look like if they're your peers. They're, yes, right? So the jury diversity initiative here that spawned this pilot has made hopefully that phrase a little bit more accurate.
A jury of your peers. I haven't thought about that phrase in such a long time.
Right?
Uh,
Because you don't remember it. Like that stuff back from school, back in our younger days, but it's so true. You think about that phrase, what would you think, Isaiah? What would be a jury of your peers? What would that look like to you?
it would look like maybe not the most representative version of like the Pierce County as what's actually there. So I think that that makes a lot of sense how you're phrasing it and breaking it down. It's not as personalized as we would think. And we wouldn't know that unless we're specifically engaged in looking at that process. And that's why I'm actually excited about this bill being passed and not only the money outcome, because I feel like if the money's there, people are able to provide for themselves while they're being civically engaged. It's going to allow them to have more interest, like outside of just the jury system. Like
Mm-hmm.
how do other government affairs happen? How do other statewide or
Mm-hmm.
local or like things happen? So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for representation when it comes to working in these systems as well. Like think about your job position. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot of things that can continue to improve just simply by treating people right financially when you're asking something of them like this. And maybe your civic duty to an extent, but also it's your duty to take care of yourself. So I love
Mm-hmm.
seeing where that's going. My next question I would ask you is how can people become eligible to become jurors?
Well, that's a really good question, Isaiah. And the way people become eligible to be jurors is one of the ways is you sign up to vote, you register to vote. A lot of times, well, many times, they will pull potential jurors, I should say, from voter rolls. Okay. So if you were registered to vote last year, you are eligible to be pulled this year. If you're just registering now, though, you wouldn't be pulled because it's like the preceding year. But that's one way that you become an eligible juror. They pull your name from a voter roll. So it's important to register to vote. And that's all part of the, process of being engaged in our government, in our legal system and our processes. And a lot of people just don't know that. And this is kind of to your point already, Isaiah, where you talked about kind of a benefit. And I think that can really be emphasized here because it's a benefit of education. And I think that's just a really crucial thing that we need to really kind of talk about in a way that gets down into the nitty-gritty of why it's so important to be informed of how things work, of how these legal processes work. How do you become a juror? What happens when you go to the courthouse? Many folks that look like us might be scared to go to the courthouse. They don't want to go to the courthouse. That signifies a fearful a place for them. And, that's something that we need to work hard to kind of overcome as well.
One thing I wanted to just say, Lori, as I was thinking of what you just stated about how, in a sense, this could be restoring hope. Because imagine going into a courtroom and not seeing anyone that looks like you, no
Yes.
one in the juror, not even the judge, and you've already lost complete hope. You're just filled with despair. So I feel like
Hmm.
this will definitely make it more fair in a sense
Yes.
and restore hope to the hopeless. I'm excited for this initiative to take place. And the only question I was going to ask before Isaiah asks his next question is how long is this pilot supposed to go on for? And I'm sorry if you mentioned it earlier, but I think it's such a great thing. And I want it to be permanent, but I know you said it's just a pilot. So I am curious.
Yes, that's a great question. I'm happy to answer it. So it will start again. It kicks off this Monday, October 14th. That will be the first impaneled jury that will be receiving $100 per day. And it will go until the end of June of next year. So June 30th, 2025. So it is a definite, locked in set of time here that we are working with. So all the more reason why we want it to be successful so we can, as we track the response rate of jurors and who's coming and who's participating, that's a key part of, kind of the performance metrics of all this and find, so we can see how did this go. But that is the time period. And, I'd love to come back after we finish the duration of the pilot program and kind of update you all on how it worked out and the results. And if there's any updates around moving forward with another pilot.
For sure. Thank you, Chief, for the amazing questions. It's so nice to have a co-host. So, um, I guess I want to follow up. I feel like you've touched on this a little bit. We have an upcoming Black to Vote event, and we'll be trying to get people civically engaged ourselves. In particular, when it comes to your pilot program and registering people are making people eligible to become jurors, which also means registering them to vote. What is your strategic strategy on how you want to approach people when you're speaking about the importance of voting, and especially when you're talking to like Black and brown low income people who are less likely to participate in voting, like traditionally, statistically.
Yeah, I know. It's a great question, Isaiah, and I want to kind of circle back to what she Love talked about with hope. And I would like to take maybe that one step further and call it collective hope. Yes, that's right, because we need to talk to the young folks and get them excited about voting and tell them why it's exciting to vote, why it's important to vote, why that one vote really matters more than you might ever imagine. I am a former school board member up here in Tumwater, Washington, which is right next to Olympia, up here by the Capitol. And I have seen races with just elected officials, local officials like school board members, things of that nature, where a person won by one vote. And that turned the whole kind of dynamic of the body of the board or city council in a way that maybe you didn't want to see it go that way. I don't want to get real political about these things, but that one vote really makes a difference. And people need to understand that they matter. Their vote matters. It's so valuable to be engaged in our civic processes and how that will kind of translate into just not only the pilot initiative, but also in our elections. I mean, we literally vote for judges. Many people don't realize that. We vote for Superior Court judges. We vote for Supreme Court justices. So your vote means more than just the presidential election. It means more than just the Senate or the House. It means your local offices, your school board members, your city councils, your small town mayors, the state superintendent that runs the public education system in our state. These are all important races that matter to folks, whether you're a parent, a student, a grandparent, whatever it is, whatever role you occupy in society, whatever it is you do, this important for you to get out and make your voice heard because it truly matters. And if you are an underrepresented population, brown and black folks, it's crucially important to get out there. And we all know this is a state that's not as diverse, perhaps Georgia, or South Carolina or even Virginia, where I came from. It's even more important that folks like yourself and this wonderful podcast really keep pushing out there how important it is to vote and to be educated about the systems that drive your life.
Thank you so much for that. I feel like that's extremely important. I feel like it takes people like yourself who are in those positions coming back and speaking, and then it also takes people like me and Chi, people closer to the generation of people that have that lack of hope. Because that's the reason you're saying hope, is because there's a lack of it or a lack of feeling like these rules or the ways you could participate in these systems aren't actually going to be beneficial in the end because you don't see it in your practical day-to-day life. I know I'm
Right.
23 years old. I went to Lincoln High School. I went through a lot of my life, and while I'm going through stuff in my life, the last thing I'm worried about is politics and government affairs because it feels like it doesn't necessarily matter. And so I feel like drawing that connection when you're speaking to people, letting them know, like, no, this directly impacts you. You're gonna have to pay rent one day. You're gonna want to move out.
Hmm.
Want to get that car. Your road might be messed up, and you got to be able to show up for yourself and advocate. Hey, I need this state, or I need this person, or this policy, or this grant to pay for this, so that there can be the same level of ease to my life as the people who live in UP district.
Hmm.
So like there's so many facets to this, but I feel like making younger people feel like there is stake in the game and there is like a means of changing it is one of the biggest things when it comes to being civically engaged in general, right? And I think your program is a huge part of that, right? You're showing that there is a care for you to be there and be civically engaged. You're not just going to get $10 a day. You're taking time off of
Hmm.
work. Let me give you some of your income, which is $100, which is better. And then in the future, as inflation rises, hopefully we can keep increasing that, to make it, reflective of like what people need in that moment in time. So thank you so much. I guess the last thing I would love to ask you, is there anything else you would like to share with all of our listeners out there? Anything you would want to let them know to be aware of, any way they can support any upcoming policies that you will be pursuing?
Well, I would just continue to advocate for this pilot program and just say, look, this is also even celebratory. When folks get that summons card, it literally says congratulations. As part of that pilot program, you'll receive that $100 a day for the jury service instead of the usual 10. And we just really hope that people understand that their participation is just essential. And we just hope that the compensation just really better enables people to want to say, yes, I will say yes to doing this work and I will be on this panel. Because truly, and in all sincerity, we're all working together to make access to justice a more real, tenable reality, and not just an idea that we talk about and give lip performance to. And it's not performative. This is real. This is a real initiative to help real people do what they need to do to be a part of a system that for so long has been against them.
And what position you running for next? You already sound like you would win the election. I'm just saying. Look,
Right? You got my vote.
you got my vote. Look, come on, you vote now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lori. We're gonna keep you here with us while we wrap up. My last question actually is gonna be directed at my good homie and friend She. I want to ask She Love a question about the upcoming Black to Vote event, and specifically for like ACES alumni like herself who participated in our program. I want to get her insight and take on voter suppression, her feelings about it, what she thinks about it, and how do we move forward so that it's not happening as much.
Yeah, and similar to what Lori said, this is an opportunity to use your voice and be heard. I feel like that term voter suppression only exists in our minds because our votes really do matter. So the direction I want to take is positivity, right? There will be no change unless we make the change, right? We use our voices every day to communicate with each other. This is your chance to have the ability to use your voice and make active change, changes that will affect your future, will potentially affect your children, your children's children, literally everything. Everything that you do will be affected by the choices you make and your decision to vote or not vote. So my main thing to tell people is there is no voter suppression. It's in your head, and we need you to come out and vote and make a difference. If you have a question about a policy or a person, trust me, there is information out there that is just ready to be read or researched by you. And if you need other insights, that's what we're here for. So my hope and our goal after the events coming up on Sunday is that people will leave there feeling renewed, like with the reminder that, oh yes, my vote actually does matter. And they have all these initiatives in place that actually does affect me. Wow, I just want to see all those light bulbs going off. Because I feel like a lot of times we hear things that, oh, it doesn't matter, my vote doesn't count. I've heard that so many times, but it does. It really does. And we need each other to stick together and vote for us to actually make a difference. So that's my take on that. And I love that question so much.
Thank you, Chi. Oh my goodness, voter suppression is just in your mind. It makes me think about the idea that a system is not just a system. A system is made up of what? People. So if people are active within a system, then the system inherently has to change, right? And so the more active people you have within this system, which is created by people, the more people you can get specifically engaged in get their voice in the conversation and have proper representation, the system has to follow suit. I mean, I think we talk a lot about systemic inequities, as we should, and these things that aren't fair. But again, like as long as the people are changing, the system eventually has to follow suit. And I feel like everybody out there, especially people around my age, of the, from 18 to, 30, 35, anybody who's not really as engaged with that, just remember that, it maybe your voice definitely matters, and definitely the voice of those around you matters. And when they're unified, that's when big things happen. So I would love to thank everybody today. Thank my co-host Chi, thank Morgan in the background, Morgan Smith, our project manager. She is fantastic. I would love to thank the court program analyst and project manager, Laurie Louise Sale, for coming through today. Everybody, stay real, stay blessed, and see us again on the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for having me.
Yeah, thank you.